Township of Hamilton is situated within the traditional territory of the Mississauga, Anishinaabeg, and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. Our work in these lands respectively acknowledges their resilience and their long-standing contribution to the area now known as the Township of Hamilton. Additions to the agenda. Seeing none, that shall be noted. Could I have confirmation of the agenda, please? Moved by Larry, seconded by Mark. All those in favor? And the motion that I should have read was it's recommended Council of Corporation Township Act that the agenda of the regular council meeting held December 20th be approved. Sorry, I got that out of order. Declarations of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof. Seeing none, that shall be recorded. Public question period. Do we have anyone with us, whether it be present in the room with us or elsewhere for question period? Seeing none, that shall be recorded. And I don't believe we have any presentations. We did have one canceled. Is there any changes to that? Thank you. Public hearings. Motion to go into public meeting under Planning Act Section 34. Prepared motion. It is recommended the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The council go into public meeting under Section 34, the Municipal Act at 1:02 on December 20th, 2022. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Bruce, seconded by John. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Thank you. Sandra, I believe you have a zoning bylaw amendment report for us. Could I call on you, please? Thank you, Sandra.
Both lots are significantly reduced with respect to their size and, with respect to the minimum zone requirement, but they are in keeping with what's already in the neighborhood. A specialized urban residential residential zone will be created for each lot. The applicant has worked closely with, county plumbing department to ensure that the lot can accommodate a house, on-site well, and on-site private sanitary system. A minimum of 1,600 square foot house to be built on each lot, while also respecting the remaining urban residential first density zone provisions. It's the opinion of this department proposal is in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw. Various agencies were requested to make comments, and we had no objections from any of the agencies, and the county of Northumberland has reviewed both properties, as I said, with respect to septic system, and they are satisfied. In conclusion, upon review of all the governing documents and the outside comments and agency comments, we commend this department of the application generally with the planning document, and bylaw has been prepared for council's consideration. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Sandra. We shall turn to the public and ask, is there anyone present in support of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone here opposed to the application? Sir, I'm sorry, I don't know you, especially with a face mask on. Please feel free to come to the podium and identify yourself along with your address, and feel free to speak.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Scotchip. My name's Rick Thomas. I live at 7050 Waverly Street in Bewdley, directly to the east of Mr. Pathaleo's amended property. I'm in opposition of this. I'm still yet to have anything proven to me that the township or health department can clearly approve of a well or a septic tank going on that property, staying away from our well, which is a dug well, by the way, which I believe is 30 meters of clearance, which is roughly 100 feet. If that's proven to me, great. I also have concerns about any well going in on this property, possibilities of it draining our well, running it dry, shutting it off, as well as many other things. So I am in opposition to this. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I'm sure as we get to committee members, one of the questions is going to be, and I'll ask now, where would your well be located on the property in relationship to the west and north lot?
Okay, so if you can see the eastern side of the drawing, where there is a shed on our property, close to the lot line behind our dwelling. Our well is directly in front of that shed. roughly 3 meters away from the fence line.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in support? Sorry, is there anyone else in opposition to the application? Is there anyone present seeking clarification on the application? Seeing none. Turning to committee members. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Papaleo. I thought you would have been under the category of in support, so I didn't see you there.
Well, I thought I'd wait until this opportunity. I just want to address a couple of things that Rick had mentioned. I did a lot of research to fulfill, I think it was item 2 of the conditional conditions put on the new lot. And I canvassed all the neighbors, including 7050 Waverly Street, which is Rick's address. And I got cooperation from 6 of the 7 neighbors, pointing out where their septic systems were and where their wells were. The only one I didn't get cooperation from was 7050 Waverly Street. I was told that the well is back by the shed. My concern is that I'm not sure that that's a dug well. I can recall in the past that they had a problem with the well on that lot that was contaminated. And as a result, they have obvious concerns about what's going on now. However, if you take a look at the map, I don't know that it shows it here, but where the well is on 7050 Waverly Street, there are septic systems closer to that well now, including the septic system at 7050 Waverly Street, than there will be on my proposed lot. So there's going to be contamination. I'd be more concerned about the other 2 septic systems than the one that's proposed for the new lot. The new lot, I believe, it could be 100 feet from that well, if it's designed properly. However, if it's a drilled well, it only requires 50. So I think that my concern is whether that is actually a dug well or a drilled well. I've also gotten the well reports from 6 of the neighboring wells, including 7050 Waverly Street. And they all indicate that they're drilled wells with a depth of probably 75 to 90 feet. And if you include my own well, which is across the street from 7050 Waverly Street, it's a 77-foot drilled well. So it suggests that most of the lots in that area are all drilled well. I question whether that's a dug well. In any event, I'd like to point out that the Northumberland County reviewed the lot with respect to the size and being able to have private services on it, and they had no objection. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. We'll go to committee members. Questions from committee members. John, do you like?
Question of clarity. When you tell them to go through the inspection for septic system, they actually have to look at the drawing or it's going to be placed, or is it they give it plans out to the
I don't know myself, so I'll defer that to Sandra. Can you advise us on this, please? Maybe we could send at least part of this to Mr. Papaleo. Mr. Papaleo, did county staff attend the site to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Any follow-up question, John?
So you're only assuming that the septic system has to be on the wonder if we do like.
Well, I think now, because I've done some research with well drillers and well designers, and now they're putting in septic systems. And they put at the house, new house, at the foot of the hill for me. And it's got a footprint of approximately 30 square meters. So they're very small. And I'm sure if you look at the drawing, the site plan concept, that there's room there to shift the 30 square meter footprint around.
Sandra?
Possibility of locating the house and septic system and private and public. So there appears the option that there appears to be three options. As well as the two and two also. This is something that was delivered from an application and was circulated to the council for review. Whether or not I can't speak to it, but we did have this information for the review.
Arthur, you,
If I may, through the chair, this diagram I did discuss with our building official, our chief building officer, Tim Dronimus, because my concern or my understanding of council's previous concern about wells being able to be placed on the property. And in our discussions, I said that there was no well identified on either the part, the very front part, or on the rear ones along, I believe it's not Waverly, but the other street. His comment to me was that the county would have reviewed that, would have identified the possible locations, but since the wells aren't actually in, they are not located. But that will be part of the siting of well location in the future and the review and approvals still required by the county when they look at the final locations of a building and potential locations for a viable well in the future.
thank you, Arthur.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just with respect to that concept drawing there, I was looking at it last night. I noticed that the wells weren't in place. There is a revised copy of that concept drawing, which does have the wells. And the well, if you want me to explain where the wells are, I can do that. On the Beach Street lot, on the west side, it's close to the Beach Street. On the west side of the property. And on the Waverly Street lot, you can see where the pin number 5114 is. It would be right about in between the N and the 5. So I can make that available to Sandra.
Thank you. We were with you, John. Do you have any follow-up to it? Thank you. Any other questions from committee members? Larry?
Sure. So you're not actually going to.
No,
So you're just trying to get lots of. Person who purchased the lot, who then have to go through the school program.
exactly. Right.
So we really can't determine whether they're in set in stone yet or not. Then, but it's just that has to be not only wants to be.
That's right.
Mark?
My comment to that would be that it's been proven now that everything can fit on the lot. So whoever purchases the lot will follow this print to make it work. So as long as that can happen, I mean, I really wouldn't have an objection to it. taking place.
Follow up, Mark? Anything else? Bruce, questions or comments?
I guess my question, not being pretty new, is that they set a minimum lot size for obviously reasons, and then say, well, this doesn't meet minimum lot size, but it's okay. So why do they set minimum lot size if they're not following? And my other, I guess, concern would be, and I realize it says that they can accommodate a 16 foot house, but when they have a smaller lot size, and what recommended is it contributes towards building a house that isn't as big or as up to standard as it could be there.
Those questions, Bruce, are we going to send over to our planning staff? Sandra?
Minimum lot size is a size of the document that is on the file. That is the ideal size, minimum ideal size for a house, well, and septic system. And that would also give opportunity for a secondary septic location should the first septic fail. Bringing forward the question, why is council entertaining the possibility of a half acre lot and a quarter acre lot? It was a request of Mr. Papaleo when he came forward to committee adjustments with his consent application. And it was reviewed thoroughly with respect to what's in the neighborhood. The neighborhood is made up of small lots, some of them smaller than a quarter linear foot. And they do have their own well and own septic system. Again, the county of Northumberland did review the consent application and found that it was this quarter acre lot and half acre lot were both acceptable for the necessary on-site private septic system. County doesn't really look at wells, but with the administrative environment. They do look at the septic system with respect to neighboring wells, and they were satisfied. As a condition of provisional consent, Mr. Papaleo did do a lot of legwork figuring out where everything could fit, along with a 1,600 square foot house. 1,600 square foot house, second part of your question, Councillor Butters, is more than enough under the zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw requires a minimum of, I think it's 800-900 square feet for a single detached dwelling. So 1,600 plus, this is actually 1,698 square foot, what is on the proposed several lots at the south end. It's more than big enough. If you want a bigger house, then yes, you're going to have to find a different lot. But a 1,600 square foot house in this area really is a lovely sized house. And on these lots, granted they're under 1 acre, but they are in keeping with the neighborhood. So the development wouldn't be out of character. The lots are big enough to accommodate a decent sized house, on-site well, on-site septic system, and 2 off-street parking spaces, which are the requirements of the zoning bylaw. I hope I've answered the question.
Any follow-up, Bruce? Thank you. Any other questions that may have materialized? Sandra, I heard you say it. I just want to maybe hear it again. The county of Northumberland, who now has jurisdiction for septic systems, has stated that these lot sizes can work.
Yes. And the comments, as in the report, the proposed lot is appropriate size for private service. That is direct quote from county. And the county has no objection to the application. They had no objection to the consent.
Thank you. I must admit, my original thoughts were similar to Mr. Thomas's. How on earth does this work on less than a third of an acre lot? But people having jurisdiction and authority have told us that it will and can. Thank you. Okay, anything further then on this application? That being the case, it is recommended that council receive zoning bylaw amendment application report ZBA 02-22, the public input for information. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Larry, seconded by John. Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, we shall entertain a motion to rise from the public meeting and reconvene to regular council. It is recommended that the council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The council rise from a public meeting under section 34 of the Planning Act and reconvene to a regular meeting of council at 1:26 p.m. on December 20th, 2022. Moved by Mark, seconded by Larry. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, section 8.4, motion to go into a public meeting under the Municipal Act, section 357. It's recommended that the council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The council go into a public meeting under section 357 of the Municipal Act at 1:26 on December 20th, 2022. 8.5. Oh, sorry. Mover, Bruce, seconder, John. All those in favor? Thank you. Eight point five, application for cancellation, reduction, or refund of taxes under section 357(1)(g) of the Municipal Act. It's an application that I'm sure Nazrat's going to speak to if we have questions. Is there anything you'd like to walk us through, Nazrat?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, nothing major to add. The staff report is clearly defines exactly what the requirement is. This is based on the assessment that we have received from MPAC.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in support of the application? Anyone here in opposition to the application? Is there anyone present seeking clarification on the application? And those reactions shall be recorded. Motion to rise from public meeting and reconvene into regular council meeting. Recommended the council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The council rise from a public meeting under section 357 of the Municipal Act and reconvene to a regular council meeting at 1:28 p.m. on December 20th, 2022. Motion, please, Mark. Seconder, Larry. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Number 9 on our agenda. 9.1, bylaw number 2022-67. Bylaw to amend bylaw 2001-58, being our zoning bylaw. It is recommended that council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton acts as follows. That bylaw 2022, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2001-58, zoning bylaw, be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 20th day of December of 2022. And Sandra, for clarity, that particular amended bylaw is dealing with which application? Right. Thank you, Sandra. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Mark, seconded by Larry. Discussion? Comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Item 10.1, council inauguration ceremonial minutes. November 15th, 22. It's recommended the Council of Corporation of Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. That the minutes of the November 15th, 2022 council inaugurational ceremony be received for information. Mover, please. Larry, seconder. Bruce. Discussion. All those in favor? Carried. Council minute meetings. Council meeting minutes, sorry. Council, November 15th, 2022 minutes. One motion in order for all three or separate motions. No. So November 15th, council. December 5th, special council. December 13th, special council minutes. Moved by Larry, seconded by Bruce. Any questions or comments? Larry? Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Committee of the whole, October 11th. Recommended the Council of Corporation of Township of Hamilton acts as follows. That the minutes of the October 11th, 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting be received for information. Moved by Mark, second by Larry. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Business arising from the previous minutes. 11.1. Advisory committees. CD 2022-28 advisory committees for the year 2022 to 2026. It is recommended that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The council receives report 2022-28 advisory committees for the years 2022 to 2026, and that the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, Cold Springs Memorial Hall Advisory Committee, Cold Springs Park Advisory Committee, the Old Camborne Schoolhouse Advisory Committee be consolidated to create one Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, and the former committees be dissolved. And further, that the Environment and Climate Change Advisory Committee name be changed to the Environmental and Climate Advisory Committee. And further, that the draft terms of reference for the following committees be approved. Accessibility Advisory Committee, Heritage Advisory Committee, Environmental and Climate Advisory Committee, Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, and Nominations Advisory Committee. And further, that staff be directed to recruit eligible volunteers for approved advisory committees. And further, that a bylaw appointing members to the public to advisory committees to be brought forward to a future council meeting. Please, no one say pardon. Moved by Mark, seconded by Larry. Questions and comments? Larry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that it's appropriate that the terms of reference for the advisory committee for the Parks and Rec should allow that committee to review those terms of reference and to either accept or make changes to, because there's a lot of information in there that may be changed if we have a program director involved in that process. So just as a comment. Thank you.
Okay, I know Daphne wishes to speak. Mark, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just gonna say that I realize I had the same concerns you do, even with some of the other committees. But we are only accepting draft. Right now, we're accepting the draft. Terms of reference. That's the words I want to say. Sorry. So yeah, so in doing that, so they can change that. So I think I made that mistake at the last council meeting by not, I think it was me that brought forward that maybe we should send them all to the committee first, but it's been pointed out to me that if we did that, they wouldn't really know what they're being pointed to or what their reasons for being on each committee. So in doing so, staff will come back with this, and I think it's more appropriate that it's in draft form.
Thanks, Mark. Daphne, would you like to speak to this, or did we get clarity with Mark's draft word being used? Thanks, Daphne. Okay, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. 12, committee reports, being Police Service Board, August 25th of 22, September 22 of 22, and October 27th of 22 minutes for each of those 3 meetings. Recommended that the Council of Corporation Township of Hamilton enacts as follows: that the Police Service Board meeting minutes from August 25th, 22, September 22nd, 22, and October 27th, 22 be received. Motion, please. Moved by Larry, seconded by John. Questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Public Works and Infrastructure. I see nothing here. Item 14, Recs and Facilities. I see nothing here. Section 15, Corporate Services. 15.1, extension of the draft plan of subdivision. It is recommended that the Council of the Corporation Township of Hamilton acts as follows. The council receives report PNG 1222, consent and merger agreement, severance agreement for information, and that staff be directed to advise the County of Northumberland that the Township of Hamilton has no objection to the extension of the time period allotted for the fulfillment of the conditions of draft approval of the plan of subdivision for a period of not to exceed 36 months. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by John, seconded by Larry. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in support of the motion? Carried. Thank you. 15.2 on our agendas. Electronic monitoring of employees' policy and disconnecting from workplace policy. It is recommended that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The council receives report HR 2022-04, electronic monitoring of employees' policy and disconnecting from work policy, and the council approved the electronic monitoring of employees' policy and disconnecting from work policy as submitted. We do have HR staff with us. Motion, please put it on the floor. Moved by Larry, seconded by Bruce. Thank you. Melissa, would you like to provide comment or just answer questions if we?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can just provide a bit of a summary. So the electronic monitoring of employees policy and disconnecting from work policy are both required under the Employment Standards Act. The disconnecting from work policy supports employees in disconnecting from work outside normal working hours, subject to reasonable kind of exceptions. And the electronic monitoring of employees is just to identify the methods in which the township will collect electronic information and how it will be used. So the policies as written have been reviewed by senior management team members, as well as we consulted with other municipalities in the county to reference their policies.
Any questions for Melissa? John?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My question is there a mechanism in place where the employees, not the manager, but employees feel they're being spied on? Is there any mechanism in place where they can complain to whom and how will it be resolved?
policy, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, the policy doesn't reference like a complaint process. But maybe worth considering.
Through your, Mayor, that's where I have a concern. If you're gonna pass a policy and you're gonna make sure that the employees or whatever circumstance it is, I just don't want the perception that council is officially giving managers the right to go ahead and, well, let's refer to the word spy, or assume they're watching employees, because it gives a sense of demeaning to the workers that are out there. And I want to make sure that's in place, and there's something in stone saying that if somebody feels that they're being, watched or being put upon, that they have a mechanism in place where they can actually complain to whomever, which would probably be their manager, because well, it's managers that watch them. So if they don't want to go to the manager, then who are they going to go to? That's my question.
Thanks, John. I believe Arthur wanted to speak.
If I may, through you, Mayor, Mayor Chip. I understand the comments you're making, the monitoring. We replaced the word monitoring as the way of ensuring people are aware that, in fact, we manage that information, we review that information. It's both to protect the employee as well as protect the organization as well. And as with any policy under our code of conduct, there would be an appeal to a manager or to me as part of a representative of the organization if there is a concern with the way the information is being used. We could look at updates, working with this policy to include that specific kind of provision in there, but that would be under our code of conduct. If there's a concern, they raise it with their manager, and they can also raise it with me as the CEO.
Through Mayor Jim.
Go ahead, John.
That's fine, but I'd like to see the policy, not afterwards, not an afterward thought. I'd like to see it within the policy itself before I move forward and approve. I'd like to see the policy have that in it. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question on that, John. Melissa, could we defer this back for that consideration without having any time restraint difficulties? Like this is needing to be done, but it doesn't have to be done today, is my question.
We were required under the ESA to have this policy in place a number of months ago, so probably the sooner the better, but it's certainly if it's something that needs to be reviewed, it would do that in short order.
Okay. So it could be brought, from your perspective, it could be brought back in January.
Sure.
Okay. John, follow up?
Just a follow-up question. Has this gone to legal to have a look at? Even though you have drawn other aspects from other municipalities, has the legal end of the municipality had a look at it and say that you're infringing on somebody's rights or whatever, maybe should change the wording or to make, get the mechanisms in place?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So typically the process for this policy, the requirements are outlined in the Employment Standards Act. And in a joint effort with all the other municipalities, we review those pieces. We do not typically in normal practice refer a policy for legal review unless we felt that there was contentious concerns or issues related to the implementation of the policy or the procedure per se. So it wouldn't be normal practice to send that to legal for review.
Anything further, John? Mark?
A couple of comments. First of all, I believe this had to be in place in October, did it not? And second of all, I know we passed a similar one at the GRCA because of the number of employees which are employed there. I believe it has to be about 25-ish. Yeah. So I think a lot of it's standard, if I'm not mistaken. So there isn't really a lot of difference between one to another one. Mm-hmm. So I don't see a problem in passing this today, but perhaps coming back in January with an addition at that point. So at least then we've at least got something passed today. We at least meet we're behind the deadline, but at least we have something in place. And then in January, perhaps you could bring something back for John's concerns and for the mayor's concerns.
I'm here with two trains of thought. I hate to pass a document and be amending it within days. I like it to be a consolidated version. It just makes it so much simpler to use in the future. I have the question of the thought, if we're 3 months behind, what difference does 4 months? The other train of thought is, yes, we could have an amendment to the motion, approve this and have a subsequent report with John's concerns outlined. I think those are all options. I'll turn to Melissa or Arthur and say this in a form of question, which is the cleanest, which is the most legal, and which is the simplest to be accomplished. Please.
Mr. Mayor, I believe it would probably be best to just provide an amended policy in January as opposed to approving an amended policy.
I don't think I was listening close enough, Melissa. I heard the word amended twice, which
Sorry.
got me going down 2 different roads. Yeah. Could you clarify that, at least for me? I don't know if anybody else in the room needs it or not.
I'm sorry, can you clarify, just confirm the question?
Which is the direction for us to go? We tend to be hearing John very clearly. And we'd like consideration of that, I think, although I'm not voting for each and every one of us. But if we were to go that route with our thoughts, is it better to pass this today with an amendment? Or is it better to put this to a deferred position and have a consolidated version in January?
So through Mayor Jib, I don't think there's no discussion around the actual policy. I think the concern from Councillor Davison is there a concern or a provision to deal with a complaint mechanism? So my recommendation would be receive the report, approve the policies, both the disconnect as well as the disconnected from work policy. And we'll take that issue further of any concerns that need to be brought forward. And in fact, also share it with our Labor Management Committee as well for their input as well. So we'll have a more robust discussion around either a complaint or review mechanism from all staff and bring that forward as an update in the new year.
So our motion on the floor is that we receive this report and for all sakes and purposes in layman's terms, approve it as is. So we at least need a friendly amendment to that motion to ask for the policy component that John has brought forward. I'll turn to our clerk and saying recommendation on process here.
So I understand from what you just mentioned, Mr. Mayor, is that we could approve it the way it is. We have a motion on the floor moved by Councillor or Deputy Mayor Williamson and Councillor Butter. It could be approved as submitted, and then a further motion, staff could be directed to bring forward an updated policy with a complaint mechanism and review by Labor Management, and that way you're avoiding an amendment to the motion.
So moving forward on that, we have a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded to approve as submitted. No further, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of that motion? Carried. Okay, it would seem appropriate to go on a second motion at this point in time. John, have you got that worded in your head?
Yes, I'd just make a motion that staff go back to their committee. I think it's a committee call.
Through your chair, through Labor Management.
Committee, and come up with alternatives for complaint mechanism for the staff.
Okay. That's been moved. Do we have a seconder? Larry? Discussion? Comments? All those in favor of the new motion? Carried. Thank you. 15.3. Application under 357 of the Municipal Act for refund of property taxes. Recommended the council, Township of Hamilton receives report T 2022-18. Applications per section 357 of the Municipal Act for refund of property taxes. And the council approves the write-off of property taxes for the total amount of $845.04 for the 2021 and 2022 tax years, of which 377.78 is the municipal portion. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Mark, seconded by John. Any comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion? Yes. No. We'll throw that for 100% technical response. That's right, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's our municipality. When I say municipality portion, it's Township of Hamilton's.
Anything further? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. 15.4 on our agenda. T 2022-20. Application for Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation for water financing. Recommended that the Corporation of Township of Hamilton enact as follows. The council receives report 2022-20. Application to Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation for water financing, and the council passes a bylaw to authorize staff to apply for Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation for water financing. Mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Bruce, seconded by John. Questions or comments to the motion? John?
Yes, just interested through Nazareth, what would the interest rate be for that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's approximately 5%, less than 5%.
Thank you. And that portion would only be put on the ratepayers of the June Avenue subdivision?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So when the budget was approved, a portion of it was to be funded from Lucy's reserve, Lucy Capital Reserve that we have, and a portion from debt. In terms of how the debt is going to be paid, it's from the capital charge that we collect from the users in that area.
Thank you.
Anything further? Been moved, it's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Recording? Good, good. Daphne, are you prepared to do that for us?
At this time, I will simply move through the name of each council member in alphabetical order. Simply state yea or nay, and I will record your response for the minutes. Thank you. Councillor Butter. Councillor Davison. Councillor Lushin. Deputy Mayor.
Yay.
Williams. And Frank.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good catch, John. I don't know whether Daphne was going to get to us for that one, but you beat it. 15.5. Appointment of deputy mayor as alternate to Northumberland County. Recommended that Council of Corporation Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The council receives report 2022-27. Appointment of deputy mayor as alternate to Northumberland County Council for information, and a bylaw be presented to council for consideration to appoint the deputy mayor as alternate in accordance with sections 267 and 268 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by John, seconded by Bruce. Any comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. And he has no alternative. Protective Services, 16.1 on our agenda. FD 2022-06, Training Partner Agreement, Red Cross. Recommended that Council of the Corporation of Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The council receives report FD 2022-06, Training Partner Agreement, Red Cross, for information that a bylaw be presented to council authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into the agreement with the Canadian Red Cross Society to allow Hamilton Township Fire Department to be a licensed training partner. Mover and a seconder, moved by Larry, seconded by John. Questions, comments? I see we have Mr. Robinson with us. I'm sure he'll speak to it or answer questions.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just the backstory of this, previous to this agreement, we were using a third-party company who has since negated their contract with Red Cross. So there was an opportunity for us to enter as a training partner and thus to bind the corporation right before you today to do so.
John,
Mayor, Jim, that was a huge document, a lot of reading. I couldn't get it on the screen high enough, but it was quite a document. But anyways, just a couple of questions that I have. Are all three fire halls going to be used as training facilities?
So we can dictate, the corporation and the actual township is the binding agent. We just, when we put the training plan together, can use any facility. So we could have it at the roads department, we could have it here, we could have it at the station. But the intent would be that all three stations, as we have been, train alike.
Okay, well, this is, I guess it has to be approved under 6.2 by the CRC, the training centers. So you'll give them the so-called information and they'll choose which ones they want to.
Correct. So each time you do a course, there's an actual training plan, and then they would approve that as a facility.
Just a further question. It says the partnership shall deliver 50% of the training. So we do have a facilitator on the fire service that can do 50% of the training.
We have three.
Very good. Okay. And of course, the termination date, 60 days of written notice. That's the usual thing. Does this put in any extra strain because there has to be an oversight of accurate bookkeeping and records? Who's going to do that? Is that the Treasury Department? Or is that the Fire Department?
For the actual
Training courses and
training courses. So that's done internally through Red Cross. So again, through the training partner, as you can appreciate, all of this is done in an online portal. So with the exception of the actual sign off by the instructors for a physical attribute that they witness, all of the online piece and portion is done online through the Red Cross, and the certificates held in.
maybe we should reword that. In other words, the municipality gets some benefit from it financially. Do they not? For the hall, rental of the halls or the use of the halls?
So the intent of this document is not for this to be a revenue source for the fire department, but rather cost avoidance. So you can appreciate if we went to a third party company and we needed to take that course could be upwards of $200 or $300 per firefighter to do that course. Because we do use our own instructors, we're paying them just for their time, and through our 60 firefighters, then it would be much more cost effective. There's an opportunity and I think an agreement from the rest of the management team that it would also allow us to do our in-house instruction here. Should we wish to make this a revenue source for the fire department and say that we're going to do a public course, definitely would take that through Arthur and the rest of the corporation before we entered into that. And then the only other piece that I could see this having a benefit would be in the fire prevention side of things. If we were having some sort of an open house or a public event where there was a, you know, as part of our systems, we wanted to offer that training at a cost or maybe even free, then we would absorb that cost. But this is certainly much cheaper than going to a third party company where we have to pay that fee. So if you see in the document, there's an annual fee and then there's a $25 per course. That would be, closer to $200 to $250 to take that course if we're doing it through a third-party company.
I just want to make sure there's no extra burden on our system.
No, in fact, it's contract.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion? Thank you. Mr. Robinson? Before you go too terribly far, on behalf of the room full of people that's here, we wish you a happy birthday
Thank you, sir.
today. No. Oh. Okay, 17, communications and announcements. 17.1. It is recommended the Council of Corporation, the Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. That the agenda items, and is this typed wrong? Should it say 17.2 instead of 18.2? Okay, mine says 18.2. I believe it should say that agenda item 17.2 to 18.2 of the December 20th, 2022 regular council meeting agenda be received. Okay. Is that clear enough, or do you want me to reread that? 17.2 to 17.4. My agenda's got different numbers here. Northumberland County streamlining governing legislation is 17.2. Any questions or comments on 17.2? Larry, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just that we passed a resolution to support Northumberland's resolution 22-1109, 738, correspondence regarding streamlining governing legislation for physicians in Ontario. That also incorporated nurses and nursing practitioners, which is desperately needed within this province. And I speak that on behalf of the physicians recruitment and retention of Northumberland. It indicated in there about a board or a committee, but it actually now the West Northumberland physicians recruitment and retention is now a board. So I want to make sure that's clarified. But just to pass the resolution to support. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Larry. 17.3. Anaraska Region Conservation Authority. Response to Bill 23, Standing Committee submission. Anyone wish to comment on that?
I'll just say that I believe you passed a motion at county level to support having more input from municipalities and so forth, and not to move this forward as fast as maybe it had been. So I presume that motion will come to us next month probably, and we'll be able to support it at that time again.
I'll respond. Yes, county council did pass that motion, and I'm sure it will be coming forward to the lower tiers.
Okay, because this is kind of hindsight now, the motion that was sent from GRC and so forth. So I mean, I'd be more than happy to support the one that comes forward in January, perhaps from the county at that time.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, moving on, 17.4. Again, Prince Edward County Motion 2022-448 regarding Bill 23. Anyone wish to speak to that? Okay, coming back, we do have a motion on the floor that the information of 17.2, 3, and 4 be received. Okay. Okay, motion of support has been moved by Larry, seconded by John. Discussion. All those in favor? Thank you. 3 and 4. Separate motions or joint motions? Receive, receive. Okay, there's been a motion previously to receive, been seconded. All those in the position of support for the previous motion. Carried, thank you. Bylaws. 18.1, execute an agreement with Canadian Red Cross Society as training partner. It is recommended that Council and Corporation Township of Hamilton acts as follows. The bylaw 2022-65 being a bylaw to enter into a training partnership agreement with the Canadian Red Cross Society be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 20th day of December. Mover, John, seconder, Larry. Comments or questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 18.2, appointing of the deputy mayor as alternate to county council. It is recommended the corporation council of the Corporation Township of Hamilton enacts as follows. The bylaw 2022-66 being a bylaw to appoint the deputy mayor as alternate. The county council be given first, second, and third reading and finally passed 20th day of December 22. Mover, Mark, seconder, Bruce. Comments or questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 18.3 on the agenda. Bylaw dealing with long-term borrowing and water main funding. It is recommended by the Council of the Corporation of Township of Hamilton acts as follows. The bylaw 2022-69 being a bylaw to authorize funding application for long-term borrowing from Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation and enter into an agreement for the water main relining be given a first, second, and third reading and finally passed this 20th day of December 2022. Moved by Bruce, seconded by John. Questions and comments? Of course, we know that we need a recorded vote. Daphne, if you would, please.
Please state your name.
Yeah. Thank you. Any notice of motions? 19 on our agenda. Media questions? Don't think so. Closed session. I think it would be appropriate if we took a break. Can we advertise that along with our motion to go into closed, or how would the best practice be here on this process? Okay. Okay, closed session. Motion to move to a closed session to discuss matters permitted under the Municipal Act, Section 239, 3.1 and 239, 2D and F, advice subject to solicitor-client privilege. We're going to revisit that motion that I read. Motion to move to a closed session to discuss matters permitted under the Municipal Act, 239.3.1 and 239.2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. It is recommended the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Hamilton then acts as follows. That the regular council meeting held on December 20th, 22, go into closed session at 2:10 under the Municipal Act, sections 239.3.1 and 239.2B and F. Motion, please. Moved by John, seconded by Bruce. All those in favor? Thank you, and we will take a quick break prior to starting our closed session.